Scotia are joined by a renowned journalist and author, Neal Ascherson, today at the Radical Independence Conference. So Neal, I suppose, what do you make of the state of Scottish politics today and the campaign for independence?
Well, it is a moment when everything is crumbling. Some of the British structures are visibly crumbling, but some are invisibly crumbling. And that's really what I'm interested in, is talking to people who are in the engine room of devolution, for example, that sort of thing, civil servants. And if you talk to them, you realize that the whole kind of understructure of the relationships of the United Kingdom are under enormous strain, and they're coming apart. And that's not just the sort of political surface, you see. It's where it really matters, the kind of day-to-day, week-to-week negotiations about joint ministerial councils and all this stuff. And it's just not working. I mean, it's getting more and more rusty and squeaky. And the treatment of Scotland by Westminster, let's say, is increasingly sort of insupportable and partial, and that is being noticed. Certainly, I mean, it's being noticed at the official level. So you've got a very, very disabused civil service in Scotland, I think, now, who, they don't have an overt political role, because they're not allowed to do that, quite rightly. But the morale in them is turning very much towards a feeling that this cannot go on.
So an interesting contradiction in this time of crisis is that in 2014 we were hopeful that there would be a magnanimous velvet divorce between Scotland and England. Is there a risk now that as crisis intensifies at Westminster, it's harder to have a sort of magnanimous separation?
Well, there are obviously still two potential tracks. One track is simply that the chaos and ill will developing in the United Kingdom structures down south, particularly over Brexit, but not only over Brexit, by the way, will simply incrementally push the Scottish vote for independence. And that, as people have been saying at these meetings, in the end, however often, however firmly a British government says no to Section 30 order permitting a referendum, in the end, popular pressure, if it's strong enough, exercised peacefully but very, very clearly and forcefully, it will happen. The one track is the simple one, which is people of Scotland will finally decide this is the moment, we've had enough, and you'll begin to get poll figures up to 60%, 60-40, something like that. At that moment, it happens. The other way is, of course, that given the element of English nationalism in what's been happening since 2016, well, actually long before, really, which has come to the surface so clearly, that British governments find Scotland an intolerable nuisance. And one of the things which has been rediscovered by all this in the last few month or so is how extraordinarily indifferent ordinary people in England are towards the Union. And the attitude, this is not new actually, it's old. I can remember it back in the 70s. Well, people down south said, well, it seems a pity if the Scots want to leave, we've been through a lot together, that's what they want, we better do it. And so if you ask people in a kind of industrial town in the north of England or the west country of England or something, what's the Union for? Why is it worth preserving? People just look at you. Then they have to think or invent something. It's quite possible that you will get a Czechoslovak velvet divorce scenario in which finally London, if you like, whatever you call it, becomes fed up with making allowances for Scotland and meeting endless Scottish demands for more powers here, more responsibilities, more flexibility, and just say, well, go away.
Finally, are you hopeful for the future of Scotland?
Yes, I am. As somebody was repeating in there, perfectly true, approximately half the members of the EU are nations with a population of under 7 million. So, I mean, perfectly viable, Scotland, no question, much better off from the starting point than Slovakia. The Slovakia made rather a good deal out of it in some ways, not all, but most. I mean, that is one, and there is a great deal of talent and thinking here going on. The economy sort of remains to be proved, but I think we are away from the sense of desolation which developed in the 1980s about the economy, and something strangely, mysteriously is reassembling itself, even in terms of manufacture and exports and all the rest of it. So yes, of course, Scotland can manage. I mean, it's not going to be painless. Independence isn't. You know, there are bumps in the road, shortages, panics, all that kind of thing does happen. Uh, it's not painless. You have to pay a price. But then when you get through the other side, one of the funny things about independence, I find, is it's a one-way street. And I've seen quite a lot of independent struggles in the world, in Europe and elsewhere. But people, once they're through this portal over the line, or whatever you put it, of independence, a month or so later, you can't imagine what it was like not to be independent. And you say to people who are definitely, no, independent, not practical for our wee country, no, wouldn't have been a bad idea. You talk to them 6 months after they vote is gone for a yes, and say, well, would you want to go back? Oh, no. Psychologically, a one-way street. No, I'm hopeful.